they would become marketable. They get a degree from an English medium university, they can get jobs internationally. They can get the better jobs. Rather interesting quote here. Saudi students need English and benefit from a Western mindset, or at least that's the perception of the big employers, this guy's saying. No one forces the students to be here. They wish to isolate themselves. Notice that use of L1 is considered to be culturally isolating. Isolate themselves in the Western world, they're free to do so, but there are inducements to do otherwise. Globalization and markets being quoted. And I find this quite interesting that an awful lot of the comments went back to money and business and access to markets. An interesting point here from somebody, maybe a little more open-minded, saying that some students wish to be able to convey Arab culture, wish to get over stereotypes, wish to be able to explain themselves. How can they do it best? By learning English, the lingua franca, basically, of the whole world at the moment. Very quickly, my interview with the director of the institution and his reasons for why they only take native speakers. The university is set up to be English medium, which has prestige, he claims. It's the language everyone wants to learn. In competition, they thought, with the UAE, with Qatar, other Gulf countries, so they're maybe copying each other even. Students here, this is maybe a better reason, will go into international companies. They'll go overseas on scholarships to study. So perhaps these reasons are a little less imperialistic and more linguistically imperialistic and make more sense for our students. Not sure whether you'd agree or not. Getting me very quickly to my own little less pensive conclusions. It seemed that what my faculty members were saying was that the problem with EFL was maybe it wasn't professional enough, that it was something of an industry rather than a profession, that we were being treated not as teachers, educators, but it's just somebody who can come in, give you a bit of language and go away home again, leaving no imprint. I would argue what we probably need is, I say here, serious realistic qualifications. EFL is one of those strange situations where you kind of almost now need to have a master's degree to get some of the better jobs, because there isn't really a bachelor's degree that's internationally recognised. If there were, I believe, we would have less discriminatory recruitment policies, because you could simply say you must have a Bachelor of Education in English language teaching, and then English as second language teaching, you would get the job. Also ask a few questions. We must think about why we are actually teaching English. Are we teaching it as a subject in its own right, or are we teaching it to support other subjects, which the English medium question might be a little fraught. The role of L1 in L2, I think that's becoming a much bigger issue now. People are discussing this, whether using your native language can help you to get towards the L2 targets. One other questions here is I was worried about whether we could be so relaxed about cultural influences. Most of my colleagues didn't see anything wrong with not pushing culture, but they thought if our students picked up a bit of English language, North American, European, whatever culture, this was a good thing. So it may be quite patronising in some ways. My final question there, of course, is as a native speaker who doesn't speak Arabic, I think I'd probably just talk myself out of my job. Don't tell anyone. Okay, I want to leave the last word here. This comes from Katru's book. Another issue which is becoming very important, and he makes the point that a lot of EFL today is non-native speakers speaking to non-native speakers for the purposes they require in their own country or between two countries. Sadly, some of my Chinese students, they went on a business trip to Japan, and they were selected to go on this trip because their English was good, because the Chinese and the Japanese would be communicating with each other on this trip in English. So do they need to have native-like pronunciation? Do they need to have a native speaker model if this is the target? Well, Katru, I think Canterbury, who's here, of course, they would probably argue no, they don't. Anyway, that's quite a quick burst. This paper could have gone a little longer. But thank you for listening. And we have a couple of minutes, I think. If anyone has any questions or comments, then quite happy to answer them or to hear your opinion. But thank you.
Thank you very much. So anyone here want to make some comments or suggestion?
Just one comment that
Yeah,
I'd
sure.
like to make. I'm also working in the UAE, and I've been to quite a few Arab countries. I'm basically from the US working there now. And I'm also from that area, from the Gulf countries,
Yep.
from origin. A study like this, do you think you can talk to people, or who would you talk to kind of present this, the information that you came out with in order to benefit or to help the people who are involved there that
well,
make the decisions on? Because one thing that I want to present, and from working there, you put a really good point about the fact that just because you've got that native speaking quality or whatever it is, that's it. They assume that you'll know how to teach the language, that you know the methodology, you're just a perfect English speaker. We discovered some of the teachers who had no experience, and basically one of them just came out from the U.S. as a bartender, and he's teaching at one of the top-notch universities. That was one of the problems that we encountered, and so a study like this would be very beneficial. So where are you taking this?
Well, hopefully, I have presented similar things in the UAE, at the American University of Sharjah, for example. The problem is people don't often listen, and I'm following this line, actually, for my thesis on that course I'm doing, and all I've been finding is I keep getting blocked. I'd like to do some research, no, you can't. I'd like to talk to students, no, not allowed. The ticket's there if you want to, go home, sort of thing. So it is tricky, but it is discussed, it's discussed among professionals, for sure. It's happening at conferences and such like, and there are publications. I published one paper on this last year, and it was published in the UAE. I don't know if anybody read it, but actual access to decision makers is very, very difficult. And I guess the thing is, by presenting papers like this and people like yourself who work there, the more people who begin to grapple with the issue, the more chance there is it'll change. But immediately, overnight, I don't think so. It's a very slow process. But I think if you went back 10 years, a lot of people weren't really discussing this kind of thing at all. And the last few years, at the TESOL Arabia conference, which they hold in Dubai every year, I think 2 of the last 4 years, their theme has been on critical issues or perspectives, and people are talking about this kind of thing and challenging the way things are done. Whether it affects institutions or not, I think that'll probably take some time. That's a good point, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, please.
I was just thinking, research like this would alert the recruiters and the administrators. So that has not taken place, as she said, but awareness is setting in. But another issue would be the learners, the acceptability of native and non-native.
It's a very good point. I've actually followed up this piece of research because I've had that question before from people, and I did a little bit of research with my students, and they were much worse than the staff. They all wanted native speakers. I couldn't tell whether they were just saying that because it was me who was doing the research with them, but they seemed to think, they really bought into the fallacy, if you like. They thought, oh yeah, we must have a native speaker, and they were actually far worse than faculty for saying things like, oh, one student actually said to me, oh, we like having people like you because you look smart, you're on time, and you've got a good accent. I said, well, I've got a Scottish accent, they all end up sounding like a Glaswegian or something. But they were actually far worse than the staff. I was surprised.
It's very automatic. You see, I just want to share, when people have these conferences in countries, Asian countries, then they always, when they see the schedule, they always look who's the native speaker, whether the topic is interesting or not. That quickly attracts attention, and you would see a house full, a person who's a native speaker, and the other person may be from another country or same country and may be presenting something worthwhile, but still, because the native speaker has attraction, so they would...
Oh, so it's definitely one of the issues. But I think I'll probably have to wind up with somebody else due in. I put my email there if anybody has any comments, and I'm around obviously for the rest of the day as well.
And thank you very much, Peter. I think we will be
Thank you.